We're heading through the doors of the deep today as we take a look at some of the world's most interesting sea creatures. We love it. We came from the sea after all. And other land creatures have returned there permanently. It's useful to notice if a saltwater croc is approaching, but how well do some sea creatures actually see? There's a place where a long-awaited, once-a-year delicacy is a mouthful of worms. And we've the stuff of myths and legends, a giant with 3 hearts and pale blue blood. Let's start in the obvious place. Yes, in the sea.
Streamlined, its arms and legs replaced by flippers. This mammal is truly at home here. But is it a seal or a sea lion? You might think these two are almost identical, but the seal on the left and the sea lion on the right may not even have the same ancestors. Some think they both evolved from bear-like carnivores about 25 million years ago. But others claim that this only applies to sea lions, while true seals derived from otter-like creatures. Although both animals are still tied to the land for breeding, sea lions are far better suited to this environment. Each year they spend several months on land, the large males protecting their females from competing rivals. They can be very aggressive. Sea lions can lift themselves off the ground, their back flippers swinging round to face the front. They walk in a similar way to many other land mammals, swinging their head and neck to create momentum. Seals, on the other hand, have to make do with an ungainly shuffling across the ground, known as galumphing. But then they're land-bound for far less time. In the case of this Weddell seal pup, it's already heading for the water after only a week on the ice. Awkward on land, their bodies are infused with grace as soon as they glide into the water. Seals swim using the rear half of their bodies and their back flippers. Their short foreflippers are only for steering at slow speeds. They may be in their element down here, but they're not nearly as fast as sea lions. Their long foreflippers provide a powerful breaststroke. Their back flippers are used for steering, along with their neck and head, and they're incredibly maneuverable. Sea lions tend to make short dives of around 5 minutes before coming up for air. It's seals that are the breath-holding champions. The Weddell seal can make staggering dives, staying down for over an hour in the icy Antarctic and reaching depths of 600 meters. It has 2.5 times more blood than a man of an equivalent size, and the blood's oxygen holding capacity is 3 times greater. But in the end, although seals and sea lions may have come from different ancestors, it's their similarities that outweigh their differences. Both started with the same basic body shape, which all mammals share. In making the transition from land to sea, they faced the same evolutionary pressures, which gradually molded them until they were almost the same. Ours is a blue planet. The world's surface is 2/3 ocean, and most of us still live near it. And so it's no surprise that we've grown to love the sea.
Other land-dwelling animals tend to be the opposite. Most avoid the sea, though there are some who've taken to it rather like we have. Our primate relatives are well adapted to a life in the forest, but a few have discovered that the sea has much to offer. It takes a bit of courage to make that first step. But this one soon gets the hang of things. All sorts of tasty morsels can be found at the edge of the oceans. Crustaceans and mollusks add much needed protein to the primate diet. Rinsing the food in the sea not only cleans it, but also seasons it with salt, which may be hard to obtain elsewhere. And the search for food has driven other, much larger animals seawards. Some scientists believe that elephants were once truly aquatic animals. Despite their bulk, they're very efficient swimmers, which seems to support this theory. Further evidence can be seen in the way they use their trunks as snorkels. This allows them to swim between islands or to cross deep rivers, searching for new pastures. The polar bear is even better adapted to life in the water, which is why it's also known as the sea bear. Its thick fur provides excellent insulation against the cold. It's so dense that the bear's skin actually stays dry. The flattened paws act as paddles, allowing it to swim vast distances, searching for food over 100 kilometers. The sea can be a very cold place, so it seems bizarre that cold-blooded reptiles have also taken to living here. You think crocodiles, and you think rivers. You wouldn't expect to see one swimming out to sea, but that's exactly what saltwater crocodiles do. They're equally at home in rivers and off the coast. They're the world's largest crocodilian and are highly dangerous. But of all the reptiles, the ones that have truly made the oceans their home are snakes. The more advanced sea snakes have developed flattened eel-like bodies to help them move through the water, and they're found throughout the warm tropical seas. If washed up on land, the yellow-bellied sea snake is helpless. To become a better swimmer, it's lost its scales, and so is incapable of gripping hard surfaces. Being scaleless makes the yellow belly prone to parasites, but it has a clever way of dealing with them. Forming a knot, the snake gives itself an all-over body scrub to clean its skin. Bands of flotsam stretch for hundreds of kilometers across the oceans, providing shelter en route for these air-breathing reptiles. Amazingly, this has allowed the yellow-bellied sea snake to colonize the entire Pacific, from the coast of America to the coast of Asia. The primeval seas were the cradle of life on Earth, and the wild call of the waves has drawn some creatures back to where it all began. And one of those creatures may be us. Our large brains and lack of body hair are just two characteristics we share with other marine mammals like whales and dolphins. Some scientists think this is no coincidence, and that at some point in our evolution, we too were sea creatures. Let's head out now to where the trade winds die down and the island of Samoa floats in the mid-Pacific doldrums.
It's 1 week after the October full moon. And hidden beneath the surface, buried in the reef, the pololo are stirring. They're tube worms, embedded in mucus-lined burrows, getting ready for a reproductive frenzy. As the rear end of each worm breaks off, it wriggles upwards, filled with either eggs or sperm. The male's yellow and the female's blue. Despite being mere reproductive segments, these epitopes have small eyes and can be up to 30 centimeters in length. As the sun pushes through the waters of the Pacific, the vast swarm reaches the surface. Here, the worm segments explode, releasing their contents, eggs and sperm, en masse. In a microscopic world, tiny sperm battle for gigantic eggs. The villagers know what the October full moon will bring, and they make the most of it. It's the unexploded reproductive segments they're after. Packed with either eggs or sperm, they make a nutritious prize. Some are eaten raw on the spot. They're said to taste similar to caviar. But the rest of this gelatinous mass will be either baked or fried. An annual feast that the ancestors of these villagers enjoyed when they first arrived here. The mass swarming continues for several days. Then the epitopes, having emptied out their precious contents, sink back to the reef below. In a few days, the new pololo larvae will also end up here, burrowing down among their parents, who, although they might have lost 2/3 of their bodies, still survive. No one knows how the pololo manage their timing. They're too deep down in their holes to see the phases of the moon or note the ebb and flow of the tides. And yet every year they spawn when the tide and moon are exactly right. They're sea creatures who are exquisite timekeepers. Do you know what's causing these tiny explosions of light? Well, they're fireworms off the coast of Bermuda. Like the pololo, they swarm once a year, reactions in their bodies producing intense bursts of luminescence. The female flashes first, and then the male responds. It's love at first light. Okay, let's be a bit surreal. You want to get these cows out of your field and stick them underwater. What do?
Easy. Turn their forelegs into flippers, their hind legs into tails, and cover them in a layer of blubber. Then, hey presto, you've got something not far off a manatee. Highly endangered, These aquatic cows can be found grazing in seagrass meadows off the coast of Florida. But life's not easy. These slow-moving giants face high-speed, man-made dangers. Propellers can injure or even kill them, and pollution has taken its toll. Lower speed limits have helped, as have water cleanup efforts. But conservation is difficult because there's still so much about these endearing animals that we just don't know. And that's where Hugh and Buffett come in, two captive-born manatees at the Mote Marine Center in Florida. To the public, they're the main attraction, but the center's primary focus is research. Each morning, before the center opens, Hugh and Buffett get a health check. Although there are very few trained manatees in the world, these two are, and it makes the process stress-free. To do this with an uncooperative animal could take all day.
180.
The training also allows Hugh and Buffett to take part in experiments which provide information you just can't get in the wild. For example, manatees don't have very good eyesight. But just how well do they see? To test our own vision, we read letters from an eye chart, and testing manatees isn't that different. The manatee is shown two panels. The white poles encourage it to swim to one panel or the other, from a constant distance of 1 meter. If it swims to the correct panel, it gets a juicy carrot reward. But which one is correct? Well, this one isn't. It's always used, and the manatee knows there'll be no carrot if it chooses it. It's actually covered in tightly spaced lines, and in manatee vision appears uniformly grey. Other panels have lines of differing thickness. The experiment investigates which panels the manatee can distinguish from the permanent grey-looking one. After a bit of dithering, Hugh chooses correctly. He avoids the familiar panel and decides to go for the one with obvious lines on it, and he gets his reward. The experiment is done again, and again, and again. Now, Hugh's visual acuity, how well he can see, is measured, and this can be compared with other animals. It puts him on a visual par with those cows in the field. Eyesight that, in humans, would often be defined as blind. So Hugh and Buffett are helping us to understand more about manatees. Information that could help to save these giants of the shallows. And after their visit to the optician, these mild and massive vegetarians are given a king-size meal of fresh lettuce. So how do manatees, despite their poor eyesight, navigate so well in dark water? Well, scientists have discovered a network of about 3,000 sensory body hairs which act as a kind of sixth sense, detecting slight changes in water pressure and so guiding them on their way. Finally, the sea has always been a perilous place. For centuries, mariners' legends have told of sea monsters dragging whole ships into the depths.
But what if these aren't just the idle yarns of sailors who spent too long in the tavern? What if these monsters of the deep actually exist? Because, of course, they do. This is the giant Pacific octopus. But far from being a boat devourer, it's actually rather gentle. And this diver isn't in any danger, despite being so close. They're truly amazing creatures. They have 3 hearts. 2 pump its pale blue blood through its gills, the 3rd through the rest of its body. They can weigh up to 70 kilograms. Some measure 7.5 meters from arm tip to arm tip. That's the length of a bus. And they're found right across the northern Pacific. Hidden in its den for much of the day, the giant comes out at night to hunt. This crab's hour has come. With eyes very much like our own, the octopus lies in wait, surveying its quarry. Its long legs, covered in more than 2,000 powerful suckers, reach out to trap the crustacean.
We focus on the warm-blooded world of mammals here. They come in all shapes and sizes. Some need a whole ocean to live in. For others, the kitchen cupboard will do. Mammals are successful and intelligent. They've colonized the land and the air, and seem as interested in us as we are in them. It's mind-boggling to imagine it, but the ancestor of this 60-ton whale lived on the land and was probably small and insignificant, nipping about between the toes of the dinosaurs.
That little creature had hair because it was a mammal. And so, believe it or not, do whales, which are also mammals. The growths on this right whale's skin, called callosities, form over hair follicles. The callosities are made up of barnacles, sea worms, and whale lice, and they accumulate in unique patterns. Hair is obviously much more used to land mammals. It's an efficient air conditioning system. It traps tiny pockets of air, keeping the animal cool in the summer. When it grows cold, the animals put on a thicker coat. And then it's an excellent central heating system, waterproof and snowproof too. This seal mother is suckling her pup, and her milk is another mammalian speciality. Milk is the most remarkable substance. It contains all the vitamins, minerals, fats, carbohydrates, and proteins that a young animal needs. And the milk of each species is tailored to the particular needs of its young. Nearly all mammals are placental, which means the fetus develops inside the mother. It receives oxygen and nutrients through her placenta and is well developed when it's born. It's now less than 3 minutes since this wildebeest calf was born. And although at first it's a bit wobbly, it is nevertheless already able to stand up. Well, more or less. The bonding between the mother and calf starts immediately. And the calf has another instinct just as powerful as the one to get on its feet. And that is to suckle. But the young of some mammals are born so immature that they have to complete their development in a protective pouch. These are the marsupials, like koalas, and the most famous of them all, kangaroos. A baby kangaroo, called a joey, can be 30,000 times smaller than its mother. And some primitive mammals, like this platypus, don't give birth at all. They lay eggs. It's still a mammal, though, because it has hair and suckles its young. The most amazing thing about mammals is their sheer diversity. Once the dinosaurs had disappeared, they flourished. Now they dominate our planet. Great herds, many thousands strong, roam the plains. And individuals even roam about under the earth. The North American mountain goat lives the high life. The Patagonian mara takes the low road. Polar bears thrive at 30 degrees below. Camels survive at 50 degrees above. Some can fly. And some can swim. The smallest, a tiny bat, could fit inside the eye of the biggest, a 150-ton blue whale, which is 100 million times heavier. Many mammals are highly intelligent, with complex social structures. And the most complex mammal of them all is, of course, humankind. We have made a greater impact than any other living creature. We swarm over the entire planet and have even changed it just to suit our many wants. We've adapted the planet, coated it with buildings and asphalt, built houses and highways, which another mammal has colonized very successfully.
Nearly 40% of all mammals belong to this order. They've made their homes in the cities we are so proud of. Beneath our feet and beneath our floorboards, there is a whole rodent universe. If there ever was a war of the worlds, this is where it has raged, between them and us. It's estimated that rat-borne diseases have taken more human lives than all wars and revolutions put together. The Black Death of the Middle Ages, spread by rats' fleas, killed 1/3 of Europe's people. Death was so swift, wrote Boccaccio, that the victims lunched with their friends and dined with their ancestors. There are over 1,000 different types of rats and mice, the greatest diversification of a single mammal family that has ever taken place. And our homes are very often their homes. In evolutionary terms, rodents haven't been around all that long. This means they still contain great genetic variability. Both rats and mice produce large litters each year, with natural selection favouring the best adapted from such a vast range. It's no wonder they're so successful. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations estimate that rodents worldwide consume 42 million tons of food each year. That's equivalent to $30 billion, the total gross national product of the world's 25 poorest countries. Not only do they share our homes and our food, but they share many human qualities too. They're intelligent, adaptable opportunists just like we are, with a wide-ranging diet. All our ingenious traps and baits have not rid us of them, though there is another mammal who can stop them taking the cake, and the cherry too. Yes, when all else fails, there is always the domestic cat. The largest rodent in the world is the capybara. They have webbed toes, their ears and eyes are set high in their heads, and they're good swimmers. Fortunately, you don't find them in the kitchen cupboard, but in South America. They're as big as sheep and can weigh over 60 kilos. Well, if you staged a Miss Mammal beauty contest, this member of the pig family would certainly not be the winner.
Warthogs kneel while feeding because their necks are so short they can't get their mouths low enough to graze on the shortest grasses. Covered from head to hoof in mud, they're not exactly African beauties. But what they lack in good looks, they make up for in strength, adaptability, and intelligence. Qualities that all wild pigs share. The warts, after which they're named, are actually fleshy bumps on their faces which protect their eyes. Warthogs are found in eastern and southern Africa. The pig that's made its home in the tropical forests of Indonesia is the fearsome babirusa. Like most pigs, babirusas love to wallow in the mud, maybe to control parasites or just to cool themselves down. This female and her youngster have been surprised by a large male, and he is a formidable sight. Big males can weigh up to 90 kilos. Their tusks stick up through their snouts, then arc backwards. And if they live long enough, their tusks can grow so long they can penetrate their skulls. The tusks are actually adapted canine teeth, one pair growing up through the roof of the pig's mouth. They break easily and are not much use when the pigs fight. In fact, there's an amusing local belief that fighting isn't the only reason babirusas have tusks. They're said to use them to hang from branches when they want a safe place to sleep. Following the jungle paths of Borneo are the Dayak people. And these paths are made by yet another type of pig, the bearded pig. Bearded pigs are unique because of their extensive migrations. Led by the old Boers, several hundred animals will set off together. They travel on well-worn paths, retreating into the thickets during the day. It's not really known whether the pigs are searching for food, but one thing is for sure. They make good eating and have been hunted for many thousands of years. The small-scale hunting with spears is not on its own a threat to the pig population. Deforestation is far more harmful. What isn't harmful to pigs is heat and cold. They're amazingly adaptable. You find wild boars just about everywhere, except on Antarctica. The European wild boars in this Polish forest are very similar to the pigs that our ancestors would have hunted during the last ice age, over 9,000 years ago. Wild boars have been around for millions of years, which in itself is proof of their toughness and adaptability. When it comes to intelligence, the descendants of those wild boars have actually been put through IQ tests, and they've done very well. After some training, this domesticated pig, Grub is her name, has learned to fit a selection of loose shapes in the appropriate slots. Psychologists use the same games to test the intelligence of young human children. Once she's got it right, she gets a reward. The quicker she learns, the more intelligent she is. Grub learned all 3 shapes in 6 weeks. In the animal world, that makes her an intellectual giant. Believe it or not, Grub shares a distant ancestor with this fella. Very distant, about 35 million years ago. Yes, hippos belong to the same suborder as pigs, and they also like to wallow in the mud. Nearly 1/4 of all mammal species are not found wallowing in the mud, or even on terra firma. They're up in the air.
Bats are the only mammals capable of true flight. That means they don't just glide, they actually propel themselves through the air. This mobility gives them a real advantage, and there are some islands where bats are the only indigenous mammals. New Zealand, Hawaii, the Azores, and the western Pacific island of Guam. Bats are usually associated with darkness and caves, but Mariana's fruit bats live outdoors in their favourite trees. While some sleep, wrapped in their wings, others are very active. There are territorial squabbles as the males defend their harem of females. And once the roosting territories are sorted out, the mating takes place. Here on Guam, 40% of the plants depend on the bats for pollination and the dispersal of their seeds. The trouble is that the Mariana's fruit bats are considered a local delicacy. They're trapped and eaten, and there are currently only about 500 of them left. And if the bats are threatened, that means the forest is threatened too. On the island of Trinidad in the Caribbean, there's another bat with an interesting social life. Living inside a hollow forest tree is a colony of sack-winged bats. The males have harems of about 8 females, and they defend them against all other male intruders. They have distinctive markings and are also known as white-lined bats. They don't crowd together like some other bats. They like their personal space, stretching out their wings to make sure that nobody's too close. They have a curious courtship routine. The males transfer urine and saliva onto the front edge of their wings. They also coat the fur on their backs with saliva. This is all designed to make them irresistible to the females, and they hover expectantly in front of them. Using their wings, they fan the odour towards the females, hoping to win their hearts. Though this one doesn't seem exactly enamoured. It has to be said that the females are rather choosy and tend to mate only with the males they want to. But then, that's the way of the world, and not only in a tree trunk in Trinidad. Scent marking is important in the mammal world. This bush baby washes its back feet with urine and then transfers it to its front paws. As it moves about, it leaves its scented calling card, which probably conveys complex information like its status, sex, and even its reproductive condition. Let's finish out west, in the blue skies and clear waters of the Crystal River National Wildlife Refuge on the northwest coast of Florida.
Our final mammal is a distant relative of the elephant, the hyrax and the aardvark. And surprisingly enough, it's found swimming in these warm, fresh waters. A fully grown West Indian manatee can weigh well over 1,000 kilos. The stiff bristles on its snout make it clear that this is a mammal. And the Crystal River Refuge is one of its last strongholds. When the sea in the Gulf of Mexico grows colder and the winter begins, the manatees migrate here looking for shelter. The river is fed by several springs, which provide hundreds of millions of litres of water at 22 degrees Celsius. Perfect for manatees. And Joyce Clean of the US Fish and Wildlife Service carries out regular surveys of the water and vegetation here. Water samples enable her to measure the temperature and salinity, because storms can drive salt water upriver. This can kill the natural vegetation, causing problems for the manatees, who are already struggling to survive. Their habitat is shrinking because of housing developments, and water pollution is also a problem. Taking a 4-pronged probe with her, Joyce also samples the riverbed. The probe collects specimens of the vegetation, which the herbivorous manatees rely on. Her colleague, Mindy Gotro, records the findings. Abnormal water temperatures can encourage the growth of exotic plant species. This can upset the delicate balance of the whole region and cause even more problems. One hazard Mindy doesn't need to record, because it's only too obvious, is the ever-increasing number of pleasure boats using these waters. Manatees often bask just below the surface, and with over 800,000 registered boats in Florida, there's a high risk of the two coming into contact, with the manatees coming off second best.